Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, Africans. I hope you're all faring well where you are, and if you ain't faring well, please fare well where you are. You see, many times in America, we cry and we complain against racism. We complain about racism against black people, right? And by now, you know, America is a multiracial country. And for now, the United States of America is becoming hostile to immigrants, you know, regardless of your location, your race, everyone is being deported, right? But even though this is happening, we have specific kinds of immigrants, particularly those from Asia, South America, and Africa, right? Immigrants from Europe are not so much deported. We don't hear of the news of such, right? So it tells you that the deportations is something that cuts across all races, right? Right now I'm looking back, and there's another thing also happening. Other than the deportation, there's racism, and there's racism against Asian people, right? And when I say Asian people, I mean the people from the Far East. They are being deported, and they are being abused, and they are being told you don't belong here, and they are really suffering a lot, right? So it is a human thing that we stop focusing on we black people ourselves, and also try and look at other people, because racism is bad, both racism and reverse racism, right? So I want us to listen to some of these Asians give their thoughts, and then I shall get back by the end of the video, of course, where we shall also have a deep critical analysis.
The Asian community needs some serious self-reflection when it comes to racism. As you guys probably know, I moved to London 2 months ago. I live in a pretty affluent area, and let me tell you this, so far I have not seen a single Asian girl or a gay guy holding hands with a black or brown person on the street or at school. In fact, almost all of them were with white dudes. A few days ago, I matched with someone from Bangladesh on a dating app. He's incredibly smart and humorous. He graduated from Imperial College, which is like one of the best universities in the world, and he's got a good paying job in technology. However, to my surprise, after we matched, his opening line was, "Thank you for liking me back. I'm aware that I may not be your preferred ethnicity, but I decided to shoot my shot anyways." At that very moment, I felt like all the dots were connecting. Why are so many Asian people actively discriminating against others with a darker color of skin, especially in the context of dating? By the way, I'm very fed up with excuses like race is highly correlated with socioeconomic status. Well, in London, which is very racially diverse, by the way, there are so many super accomplished black and brown people in banking and technology. And my observation is that many Asian girls and gay guys would rather choose a white guy with mediocre salary. My message to the Asian community is very simple. Whitewashing yourself is pathetic.
These are some things that white people say about Asian people in private. If you're a person who falls into this demographic, you might have heard these things before, but if you're a white person, stop fucking saying these things. Number 1, the Chinese food boycott by white people during the COVID pandemic. Yeah, I know of many white people who will still not eat Chinese food ever since the pandemic because they are convinced that somehow eating Chinese food is supporting China, or that they're going to somehow contract the virus through the food because of the connections that they have. Number 2, saying that Asian people smell bad. This is a very pervasive myth among white conservative people, specifically referring to South Asian people. Number 3, not knowing the difference between the different languages in Asia and just referring to anyone who looks remotely Asian as Chinese. Number 4, refusing to visit any country in Asia, whether it's Japan, Thailand, etc., because it is either dirty or because they don't want to support the enemy. Number 5, assuming that any Asian person who has had a successful career cheated because of the way Asian people are raised to be very intelligent, definitely rooted in race. I'll be making more of these videos in the series, so comment if you have.
Asian people in the US are so weird at liking white people more than their own people.
Think of it like this. When COVID hit, remember all the anti-Asian rhetoric that was going around America? Now imagine that energy stretched over a lifetime. Growing up, I'd hear that Asian men are not attractive, we only know how to do math, we can't drive, we have the funny accents, the slanty eyes. It's really hard, given all of that, to grow up as an Asian man in America and be proud of who you are. Now imagine coming home and the people in your house are Asian parents who don't express their emotions, who lay hands on you, who don't ever apologize, who make you feel less than for not wanting to be a doctor or engineer. Mine also called me stupid. Oh, you'll never get into this school, you'll never do this. Look at my friend's son and what he's doing. And so when both your indoor and outdoor environments make you question your self-worth, of course you're going to try and be someone else. I think that's human nature. And in America, what group do you look towards? White people. They are the heroes in all the movies, they're on all the magazines. It is very easy to put them on a pedestal, which I did, admittedly. And my story isn't unique. Now, these days, I am proud of who I am, and my heritage, and my facial structure. But it took a long time and a lot of personal growth and a lot of help from cultural phenomena like K-pop. There is so much more to say about this topic, like, for example, how a lot of Asian Americans don't feel connected to their extended families because they're not Asian enough, or how I, in college, saw up close white people with their close families and how that impacted me. But I want to keep it short. I hope this helps you and other Asians who didn't grow up in America understand us better.
Here's a rule of thumb. When a country collapses, someone somewhere is getting rich. And in the case of Sudan, they have been in a constant state of collapse, which means that a lot of someones have been getting rich for a very long time. In my last video, I explained the history of the Sudan conflict. I gave you the timeline, the how behind what's going on. Now I want to give you the why. Regardless of how poor Sudan looks visually, Sudan is a gold mine. Whoever controls Sudan controls access to the Red Sea, which is a global trade route worth trillions of dollars. They also control the Nile River, which is literally Egypt's lifeline. They control the oil, the uranium, and they control the third largest gold reserve in Africa. Sudan is like a wounded lion, being mercilessly picked apart by vultures. And the first vulture on that list is the UAE, the United Arab Emirates. The UAE is probably the largest financial backers of the RSF. And if you don't know who the RSF is, go watch my last video. So why does the UAE support the RSF? Because the RSF currently controls Sudan's gold mines. And these mines produce billions of dollars worth of gold every year. Billions. So keeping Sudan in a state of chaos benefits the UAE because it allows them to bypass Sudan's central bank and purchase directly from Hemedti, the commander of the RSF, through his holding companies. The gold is then smuggled out of Sudan, melted down in Dubai's refineries, and then it's sold as Emirati gold. So the RSF gets a steady stream of money and weapons to keep fighting, while the UAE gets to be one of the largest gold exporters in the entire world. But like most countries exploiting Sudan, the UAE is playing both sides. The RSF owns most of the gold, but the SAF, the Sudanese Armed Forces, controls the coastline along the Red Sea. And having access to Sudan's coast means having control over trade routes, shipping lanes, and the flow of wealth throughout the entire region. So the UAE not only funds the RSF, they also fund the SAF by investing billions of dollars to build ports and trade zones all along Sudan's coast. So while the UAE, Hemedti and the RSF, and Al Burhan and the SAF all profit, the people of Sudan are left experiencing what can only be described as hell on earth. Then you have Egypt. Egypt is a bit different. Egypt exclusively supports the SAF. Actually, Egypt's support of Al Burhan and the SAF is primarily what gives them credibility as the legitimate de facto leader of Sudan. What Egypt wants is primarily to maintain access to the water that it receives from the Nile River. Sudan practically controls Egypt's entire source of water. The junction where the Nile River splits off and flows into Egypt is under SAF control. That junction is located in Sudan's capital of Khartoum. If the RSF were to take control of the capital and the distribution of water from the Nile River, Egypt risks losing its only water source for 110 million of its citizens. And Egypt has made it very clear that that is a red line that they are not willing to tolerate. So Egypt provides the SAF with weapons, they train their military, and they provide them with political cover to the international community. Egypt doesn't really care about Sudan becoming independent or powerful. They would actually prefer them to remain weak because it keeps them submissive, which ensures that they can never threaten to cut off Egypt's lifeline. Now enter China. China is actually doing something different. China could really care less who wins the war, or if no one wins the war at all. China's plan is to exert influence regardless of the outcome. They're actually pulling a play out of the United States playbook. You can go read The Economic Hitman if you want to learn the game. But in a nutshell, China is providing Sudan with massive loans and construction projects, trapping them in long-term debt, and ensuring that China has long-term influence by controlling the infrastructure that they built. Debt equals control. It's the reason why over 80% of Americans are in debt, but I digress. During the 90s, when the United States placed sanctions on Sudan for war crimes, China took advantage of this and literally built Sudan's entire oil industry from scratch. They built the pipelines, the refineries, and the export terminals along the Red Sea. They also built Sudan's highways, dams, and power plants. And in exchange, Sudan pays China with oil, gold, and future export rights. And they can't default on payment because China retains control over the infrastructure, which means that Sudan remains dependent on China long into the future. China doesn't care if the oil or gold comes from the RSF or the SAF. They just care that it keeps coming. Then you have Russia, who is another player taking advantage of both sides. Russia funds the RSF for gold, but they're also working with the SAF because they want to build a Russian naval base along the coast. And then you have Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia's primary concern is to maintain security and stability in the Red Sea. The Red Sea is important because it runs right between Saudi Arabia and Sudan. So any instability in Sudan is a threat to Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia has kind of positioned themselves as the peace brokers. But Saudi Arabia's hands aren't clean either. For years, Saudi Arabia has paid thousands of RSF soldiers to fight in their war in Yemen. So technically, they have helped build the same forces that is now tearing Sudan apart. And of course, no story on geopolitical corruption would be complete if we didn't mention Israel. Israel is basically the world's spy. Their goal is essentially to have surveillance over the entire world. And that is not an exaggeration. They aren't necessarily after the gold. They can get that through their partnership with the UAE, who they are closely tied to. What Israel wants is for Sudan to join the Abraham Accords, because that would normalize relations between Sudan and Israel, and it would prevent Iran from gaining influence in Sudan. And it would give Israel intelligence access along the Red Sea. Sudan's coast would give Israel the perfect vantage point to monitor shipping routes and military movements. But overall, their main strategy is to maintain relationships with both the SAF and the RSF. Their goal is to keep Iran out of the picture and to do business with whoever wins. And then you have the rest of the world. The United States likes to pretend like its hands are clean, but they never are. The United States is just playing chess from a distance. As long as Sudan is divided, they're not going to ally with Russia, China, and Iran to oppose the United States. And that's what we want. As long as we have our allies, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Israel, keeping the fire burning, we can focus on more important issues, like kidnapping immigrants, taking away food assistance from millions of citizens. But again, I digress. Now, the United Kingdom is the main money laundering operation. After the UAE turns the Sudanese blood gold into Emirati gold, London essentially legitimizes it so that the wealth can be funneled into banks, shell companies, and into the global marketplace. So much of the world benefits from Sudan existing in a state of chaos. No one really wants peace for them because peace would mean stability, and stability would mean no more exploitation. Sudan has never experienced nationwide peace since its inception in 1956, and it's fair to say that that has not been by accident. Because unfortunately, we live in a world where human life does not matter. We live in a world where money matters. And Sudan's gift and curse is that it is literally sitting on a gold. One of the biggest threats facing America today is our financial situation. They'll tell you that it's immigrants or drug cartels or that it's left versus right. But the bigger threat is the fact that we are $34 trillion in debt. And we have no possible way of ever paying that back. Just to put it in perspective for you, if you were to spend $1 million every single day from the time Jesus Christ was born, you still wouldn't spend $1 trillion. And America is $34 trillion in debt. And that debt is growing at a rate of about $2 trillion every 4 months. and it's only picking up speed. So the question you might be asking is, who do we owe that money to? Pretty much everybody. Half of our national debt is owed to foreign countries. Japan holds about $1 trillion in U.S. debt. China holds about $800 billion. The UK, Canada, and a bunch of other countries hold the rest. The other half of our debt is owed to Americans. But that's not even the worst part. What's worse is the interest that continues to accrue on all of the debt. We are growing our debt by about $100 billion a month just off interest alone. The interest is now one of the largest expenses in the federal budget, right alongside the military and Social Security. Every serious economist, left, right, or center, agrees on one thing. There is no mathematical way to pay this back. None. And everybody knows it. Which raises another question. If everyone knows that the U.S. can't pay off its debt, why do they keep investing in us? Why do countries like China and Japan keep lending us money? There's a few reasons for this. One is, of course, the fact that the dollar is the world's reserve currency. The world trades in dollars. Oil is purchased in dollars. Banking and international finance is measured in dollars. All of that is true. But the reason why all of that is true is because America projects dominance. America doesn't have to just be powerful. We have to look powerful. All the rhetoric about America being the greatest and most powerful country in the world isn't just simply to boost our own ego. We do that for our very survival. The world trusts the dollar because they trust American power. We have the strongest military, we have the largest economy, and we have the most liquid financial markets for now. For now, we are the ruling empire. So where else are they going to go? Who else are they going to borrow money from other than the ruling empire? But the thing is, this empire is built on a house of cards. Our financial situation is a huge vulnerability, and America has a problem right now with nations trying to expose that vulnerability. All it takes is for one card to fall for this whole structure to fall apart. One major loss of confidence, one major default on a payment, and down goes Frazier. This whole house of cards, this illusion of dominance, our status as the global empire all hinges on the belief that America cannot be challenged. And right now we are being challenged. Vladimir Putin invading Ukraine against the orders of our president is a direct threat to American dominance. And Putin is well aware of that. Putin is well aware that America is a house built out of straw, and he is huffing and he is puffing and he is trying to blow our house down. Defending Ukraine has nothing to do with defending democracy. It's about defending the dollar. If Russia is able to defy our sanctions and survive a war with Ukraine, it sends a message to the world that America is no longer untouchable, which means that our dollar is not as safe as we pretend it to be. And that is something that we cannot tolerate if we have any ambitions of remaining the global empire, which of course is our only ambition. Once trust is lost in the dollar, the entire American financial system starts to fall apart. It's just like a bank. A bank can only exist as long as people trust that they can get their money out. America can only exist as long as the world believes that we are the most powerful nation on earth. And unfortunately, the world is slowly starting to lose that trust. And once you've lost the world's trust, that is a debt that you can.
Not long ago, I had a white female friend ask me, "Do you even get racist treatment? You have light skin." Let me tell you about the racism that Asians face, specifically Asian women. As long as we hold positions where we are in service of other people, namely white people, we're considered good. Model minority. Also, Asian women are always hypersexualized. Someone finding you attractive because they want to fuck you is not respect. Imagine trying to climb the corporate ladder when all eyes are on you and you're a servant and a sex object in these people's unconscious bias. Asian men are at least seen as competent when it comes to career. Asian women, absolutely not. How hard we have to work to prove ourselves in our industry. Asians are not considered white. We are safe as long as we are a follower. When we're in leadership position, a lot of people want to destroy us.
You know, it is a bad thing, and myself, I really do not encourage racism. I don't encourage racism in any way whatsoever, because racism is you thinking that you are better than a human being. That is what racism is, and I totally do not encourage it. Even though it's happening to black people in the majorities, in itself, it is it is a vice, right? It is something that even though you are the one causing it, if it were be done to you, it wouldn't have been good, right? See, we are all created in the image of the Most High God. That is what we are created for, right? So when God looks at his creation, he does not see a Japanese, an African, this and that. No, he sees a human race that he created. Even biologically, we are all coming, we all root from the same person, from the same ancestor, biologically, and even through the theory of evolution, right? One thing to prove that is look at the theory of, not really a theory, but the taxonomic units of classification. The smallest unit determines whether a group of organisms can either give birth to offsprings that are also viable or not, right? And the least taxonomic unit of animal classification is called the species. Now, the species is a group of organisms whose members can freely interbreed and give rise to viable offsprings, right? That is what a species is. Can easily mate with another, maybe an opposite, not maybe an opposite one, because man and man can't give birth. Woman and woman can't give birth. So it has to be the correct way that God intended, right? Now, because an African can give, can mate with the Japanese to give rise to a child, the child can also give birth, right? Science supports it, and even practically it is supported. We have many people with whom their parents are Japanese and their fathers maybe are Africans, right? Or the vice versa. The idea is we all belong to the same species, we share the same DNA. What differs is just the phenotypical, or rather the outside appearance, right? And the Asians, how they came to America is not so much different from how the Africans came over there. The Africans came through slavery, we all know that. While the Asians, particularly the Chinese, they came there as industrialists. They came to develop, they came to establish factories, to work on the roads, to build railways, right? And also the Indians, they came to America to build railways. That is how they got themselves there. They came to America to provide source of labor. And because America was doing so much better, so much better than China, than Japan, than those other countries, some of them decided to stay. And they retained citizenship. They retained the American citizenship, right? So the disliking and the people who are disliking these specific Asians, I don't think it is black people, it is the white people, most of them. It's how it's been, right? And it also begs the question, who does America really belong to? Who does America belong to? You know, America belongs to the Red Indians. If there is someone who should be deporting people, it is the Red Indians, or rather the Native Americans. I was told not to call them Red Indians, but Native Americans. They are the ones who are the true originators, the true owners of America. And even them themselves, they were pushed out by the whites, by the white slave master, by the white what? Colonial master, right? So there's a problem that one race thinks it's more special than the other race, which is not okay, right? We are all made in the image and equality of the Most High God. Whether Chinese, Japanese, or who, racism is a vice, and racism is not a good thing to the entire human race. I'd like to hear what you think, so kindly share your thoughts in the comment section. Let me hear what you think, and see you in the next one.